Hey guys, Kyle Miller, auto mortgage agent with Mortgage Brokers Ottawa, back with another one of my video podcast vlogs, whatever you want to really call it. I don't know anymore because we can always rip the audio and take the video and do whatever we want with it. But I'm excited today to have a special guest with me because I was just saying to her, actually, I'm like, I know what I'm good at and I know what I need help with, and I know to go look for people that can do it better than I can. And that's what she's here to do. So I'm here with Julie Leduc, who is a colleague of mine through Mortgage Brokers Ottawa. She's actually another mortgage agent with Mortgage Brokers Ottawa. Julie Leduc, Beyond Mortgages, one of her several companies. But the key to it is that she's actually a certified financial coach, among other things, because we talked about a lot of that. And I'd like to get into her entire credentials, but we'd be here all day because she's that skilled. So Julie's a certified financial coach. She's an insolvency trustee to a point, and she can get into that. Her company is Your Move, Your Money. They do financial coaching, bookkeeping, accounting, again, among other things. It's really wild to see her set up, but I'm super appreciative that she's here because I'd love to get her insight on it's our financial literacy video series that we've been doing. And that's what we're looking at. So Julie, thank you very much for taking the time today. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Kyle. Thank you for the invitation. And I'm so glad to be part with you.
So let's dive into this part first. So certified financial coach, like what is that? Like, I think that's it's a different term. I think everybody says, go see your financial planner, right? But don't go see your financial coach. So
right.
Can you dive into that about what that is, what you do there, or how that started, I'll let you go with that.
Absolutely. So a certified financial coach is, let's start off with the term coach has been the buzzword for the last few years, and everybody has adopted it as their own, right? And you're getting all these people that are calling themselves something coach. But I wanted to be a little bit different. So I did some research and I said, how do I get some sort of certification that says that, hey, I've taken a course, I've gotten some training on this stuff, I'm not just a fly by night. So I decided to look up a financial guru in the States. His name is Dave Ramsey. And I went to his spot and in the States, and I just stayed there and took course with him. So doing that gave me an insight as to what it is that he was doing, how he was approaching the clients and helping them financially. And he gave me my course certification. That said, that's an American course certification, and that works. And right now in Canada, we don't have to have a certification to be a financial coach. So I'm still using my Dave Ramsey, or he's actually called Lampo Group, and that's where I took my certification. So the difference between a financial coach and a planner would be that a financial planner will look at what you need for retirement. They will look at what investments are going to bring you money. They're going to look at all these fun things. What a financial coach does is not that at all. A financial coach will look at your bottom line. How are you functioning today in cash flow essence? Are you able to successfully function paying your car, your house, your bills, etc., and applying an element of savings? That's what we do. So we build strategies around how to make your money work for you at the bottom line level, not at the super high level. We start at the base, because if your foundation isn't strong, you're never going to be able to build your house.
Yeah, it's like building wealth and investing is down the road. Like it's part of the end goal. It's not the start.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's all part of the strategy, but it's good to know where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, you're going to end up somewhere else, right? Yeah. That's a quote from Yogi Berra.
But buying a watch instead of investing.
Exactly. So one of the things that we want to look at is how much of your money is being channeled well and what maybe needs adjusting. So I have this statement that I use with my clients, and I say, do you have any disappearing money? A lot of people say, what's that, disappearing money? And I'll say, well, tell me what your expenses are, write them all down, And, oh, it looks like you should have $2,500 left in your account at the end of the month. Do you have that $2,500? Well, everybody says, no, of course they don't.
Yeah.
Well, that's disappearing money because they don't know where it went. It's not going to an area that has been allocated, that has been identified. That dollar has not been labeled into a category, whether it's spending, restaurant, or whatever it is. It has not been labeled. So it's you can't account for it because we don't remember where it went. How many times do we go into our account and we draw $100? And then you do what you have to do. You drew it because you didn't have any cash. You want to go to the restaurant or whatever. You wanted a coffee, whatever you wanted. First thing you know, you're broke and you need more cash. So you go back to the the teller and you get another $100. Well, that begins to create part of the challenge rather than part of the solution. So the role that I do is I build strategies on let's retrain our brain to do something differently with that unaccounted money.
Yeah.
So applying it elsewhere. And it doesn't mean that you don't go to Tim Hortons. That has nothing to do with it. I'm not an iron hand that's going to say you're not allowed to go to the restaurant. You're not allowed to do this and that. We look at what what you want to do. Where do you want to go? It's all about where you feel you want to get going. And usually within 2 months, when people are working the systems, they start noticing that they have all this cash because now they're changing the way that they're dispersing their money.
And personally, we were talking about it before we started recording. I did that. Like I was that guy, and for a long time, right? And when my partner and I, we finally sat down, looked at everything. Like it wasn't. I'll be honest with you, it wasn't fun. Like no, I never woke up on Saturday just like can't wait to dive into that spreadsheet today. Like It's not fun, and it's actually, to be honest, it's very humbling to look and go. And if there's kids in the room, you may want to turn away here, but I'm like, holy shit. Like, that's what it is. Yeah. But now, like I said, we've grown from like, for us anyways, I don't know how many bank accounts we have. It's like 9 or 10 or 11, because it was just simpler for us to be like, okay, that much money goes here for that much money goes here for that, this for that. We plan for everything. And then it's already there. And it started a snowball effect of just, holy, we actually have that. Like, it wasn't like, where am I coming up with that money? Nope, it's right there.
It's already there.
Labeled, and it's right there.
And that labeling, those accounts labelings, you label for Christmas, you label for the next car, you label for all of these things so that you're never caught off guard.
Sorry to interrupt, but we're not spending our money. And I think that was the toughest thing, is I'm like, why am I going to work this hard, make this money, and then go and stick it in a drawer? I'm like, that doesn't do anything for any. It's no fun. And that's also what we're doing. Exactly. But it's also not fun to not have the money. So now we have the money and we can spend the money on what we thought we were going to spend the money on anyways. It's just there. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's.
Well, personally, we have 15 accounts, so we're right with you.
Oh, we're on the same page. Okay, good.
So we have one for vacation, for example.
Yeah, 100%.
And so we have a trickle every week. We have a trickle going to vacation. So when we're ready to go south, we're good. We got the money, we're going. And you decide how many trips a year you want to do. And that's what you work out in your system. I mean, it's the same for the car. It's the same for all things. There's only one component that we encourage at the very first step. I call that the foundational thing, is to have an emergency fund.
Yeah.
Because these things happen. Your car does break down or your fridge does break down. So you need to have that emergency fund to be able to go to. And the one thing that I recommend is about $1,500 in that emergency fund, because with $1,500, you should be able to buy a new fridge or whatever the case is. The idea is to stay completely away from using credit, because that's what begins to shoot us in the foot.
Okay, so we're crossing across two things here. Again, not to interrupt you, but I'm kind of going on the fly and what I'm thinking of. So one, if there was a starting off point, because we could talk about this for all day, like literally all day, and then you would have to start charging. So I don't want to do that either. But it's like, so one, what is a really good basic starting strategy for people budgeting? Because we're going to get into saving money and the down payments and, you know, our broker stuff.
Right.
But what's a good start for that? And then two, we'll talk about credit, because I use my wife and I have one credit card that we share, and we use it for everything, and then jump to those bank accounts to pay that stuff off as it was allocated to, right? Because again, mortgage, we know credit's a big deal. So let's start with that. Let's go with strategy. Like, what's a baseline strategy or a basic step that you can give someone to just start them on the right path?
So the very basic thing I can tell you, Kyle, is that people need to live within their means. If you're making $400 a week, you can't spend all of that $400 because you're never going to get anywhere. So you have to spend less than you're making so that you can allocate something to these accounts. The amount is irrelevant initially. It's about retraining your brain to start transferring $5, $10, $20, whatever it is that you can afford. And you never start with 15 accounts. You start with 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Right? Never start. So it's a gradual process. You first have to live within your means. So the idea is, I say to people, I want you to bring you to ground zero. At the end of the month, you should not have a negative amount in your overdraft, obviously. You should be at 0 or above 0. Of course, the ideal is to be a considerable amount above 0, but that's not going to happen initially. So I think the first step is reaching ground zero. From there, then you begin to have these accounts, because if you start too early, again, you're putting the cart before the horse. You have to manage your money that's coming in and that's going out, because we all have bills and that's not going to stop. So we want to look at that. So sometimes it's about where the money's going or what it's going on. And then from there, you can begin to build those accounts and increase them as you go for the things that matter.
Yeah. So that's cool. Now, so what about that strategy of, again, from the credit standpoint, right? Or even that, like, from it's interesting to see from a financial coaching standpoint, what do you say about credit? And then flip that to, as a broker, what do you say about credit? Like, this is interesting to me.
Yeah. So as a financial coach, we want to stay away from credit, period.
Okay.
You use a credit card. You should only have one credit card, right? And I see people come to us with 10, 12 credit cards. It's not a problem. However, there's no need for more than one. But here's it's important that we do know. It's okay to use them as a transactional situation. It's not I don't have any money, I want to buy that shirt because it's on special. It's, I'm using this credit card because I'm booking a hotel, or I'm buying a flight, or whatever the case is. And I already have the money in these accounts to pay it out. If you're doing that, that is a transactional purpose. So credit cards are not bad if you're using them as transactions, but
tool.
If you're using them as a savings account, then it's bad.
Shitty interest rate on that one.
Right.
Big time.
Well, yeah.
So that's good. Now we flip to the broker side of things, right?
Right.
And like you said, you should only have one credit card. But we know from a credit reporting standpoint, we typically, and I've said this 1,000 times, you want to have at least 2 trade lines, $2,500 minimum, right? Absolutely. And then keep rolling from there. So exactly. It's the game and the discipline, I guess.
It is the catch-22. I'm going to tell you, I also do that as a broker. I tell people they need to, because that's what they need. That is real. Yeah. However, having them and using them is 2 different things. What we want to do is we want to keep them active, but we don't want to continually use them. So if we have 2 credit cards, you use one once a year, and I always say to people, put $50 on it and pay the minimum payment for 3 months, and then pay it off, and then stick with the one that you're using all the time, and then you're paying it off every month. But the idea is, don't spend more than you need to.
Say that again. Say that again. So like I'm using my one card, and then I got a
Yeah.
second card because I need it. So I go and put a tank, fill my car. I got a tank of gas. So that's
Yep.
$50.
Yep.
God, those were the days. $50.
Yep.
But anyway, and you're saying don't pay off that 50?
No,
Like
don't pay it off for 3 months, because there's a chance that reporting agency, whatever that lending institution, may not report every month to the bureau. So what we want to do is we want to force report to the bureau.
Huh.
So by doing that, 3 months, you're force reporting that you owe $50 to that card, and you're making the minimum payment. Therefore, you're satisfying the requirement at the credit level.
So paying it off fully isn't gonna do anything. It's not gonna do anything negative, but it's not gonna do anything positive.
Exactly.
Okay, so and again, just so people understand this too, if we stick to that ratio, $2,500 limit, and you just put $50 on there, the people who are like, well, I heard, and I argue with, I heard that I'm going to put $2,500 on this card and then pay the whole thing off.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's true, because utilization at 100% brings down your credit score.
It sure does. It sure does.
Thank God. I've been telling people that. I felt wrong for a second. I'm like, oh God. Thanks, Julie.
75, actually, anything above 75 is what I understand. Anything above
I've heard
75%,
different numbers, but
so the thing is that we don't want you to owe a ton of money on your cards, because it's actually not beneficial at all. Where's the benefit? There is none. So, if you want to stimulate your credit, you put some money on your card, on one card, not all your cards, one card. You use it, you pay it off at the end of the month. The one you continually use, it will trigger itself. You'll always have a report. When we're looking at the second card that you're not using all the time, just put that $50 on it, pay the minimum payment once a year for 3 months, and then you're good to go, and just keep it active that way.
Would you suggest like something relatively small, like let's say, like on a piece of advice I've given, which maybe isn't good advice, so you can tell me if I'm wrong here, is like your cell phone bill, for example. Like cell phones destroy credit because you don't pay them. They do nothing to help, but they'll kill you. So is it a two for one there? But say, well, here, I'll automatically pay my phone bill through my credit card on auto pay, and then I'll pay that off. Does that work?
The one thing that's sort of like a sand pit, like a quicksand pit, right? You don't want to put anything that's going to automatically charge on your credit card unless you have no other option. I would say that's not a good solution. I would rather see everybody put $50 at the gas, to put $50 in gas, and then nothing else, because we forget. We are creatures of habit, and we forget to do things a certain way unless we're doing it regularly, continually.
Right.
So it's all about, you don't want to find yourself in a boat where you haven't paid off your phone because it's been charging your credit card, and you've done a minimum payment, and then all of a sudden you owe $5,000 on your credit card because you haven't been paying it. And that's what we're trying to eliminate. We're trying to get out of the habit, because you have to understand that financial challenges are about belief systems.
Yeah.
It's
mental. It's
It
totally mental. I've been through it. That's my thing. I'm like, I'm not lying. Like I've been there. I get it. Yeah.
It's absolutely a mind challenge. So often these learned behaviors come from our childhood. And often I can tell you that myself, I come from a very poor background. So I would see my mother put her money in the freezer, because that's where it was safe then.
From the fires.
Right?
I may or may not have an envelope in the freezer from the fire, just in case.
But she didn't have enough money to pay all her bills. So she always took the money from one bill to pay the other bill, to pay the other bill, to pay the other bill. Like, it was never, I have enough money to do it all. And so I grew up with, I don't have enough money ever. I don't have enough money. How am I going to manage it? That's bondage. That's something that you carry with you that's hard to move away from. But the idea here is, why do I not have enough money? Well, because they were using it to buy booze and cigarettes and to go out. They're using their money differently. Had they been using their money more wisely, they had plenty of money to do what they needed to do with it. So it's a catch-22, and that's the mindset that we have to change. If there's nothing wrong with drinking and smoking and whatever, if you're doing it reasonably.
Thank you. I had everybody shut off the thing. You shut it off. We're like, we're out of here. We're out of here. This is boring. I hate this. I hate both of these people. They just
no, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a drink or even a case of beer. It's not about that. The idea is plan for it. Stick around that budget. Whatever limitations that you have financially will create the limitations that you should set around in your life. So for example, if you have a hard time putting groceries on your table, I don't think it's a really good idea to buy 5 cases of beer. It's
all like, it's been the last year and a half that I've really focused on this stuff. And again, just to be clear, I wasn't working with Julie in this case. Feel kind of bad about that now, but it was looking at that and just admitting, like, this is where I spend my money. And if I'm okay with it, then I'm okay with it. Right? It's no one else matters. But if it's taking away from something else, just make the decision.
Exactly. Right? Here's a fun little thing. I had my husband keep all of his receipts because my husband's a Tim Hortons guy. I said, keep all of your receipts. So we got married in the year 2000, so 21 years ago. So you can put this in perspective. In 2000, my husband was spending $300 a month at Tim Hortons. In the year 2000, my mortgage payment was $399 a month. So transport that to today, most mortgage payments are about $1,500. Imagine if you were spending $1,500 at Tim Hortons. That's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense, but that's what was happening. My husband was doing that. So what happened? That was disappearing money.
Yeah, for sure.
So we shifted, and I said to him, let's make that shift. He said, what are we going to do? And I said, let's decide how much money you're going to spend at Tim Hortons. And I'm going to buy another property with the difference. 6 months in, we bought another property.
Yeah.
You sort of go, what? Well, that's how you do it. You just shift. He didn't stop going to Tim Hortons. He never did. He still goes. It just strategized around it. And we just changed a little bit what it looked like. And first thing you know, you're putting that money somewhere else and it's working for you.
And it's a situation too of just, again, it all comes back to what you're saying at the start of just knowing where you want to go. If that's the goal, when you buy that coffee, you're like, it's not helping that goal. It's not helping that. So all right. One less drink this week, one less this, one less that. Right. You're still having them, but you're still having them. You're not depriving yourself of a lot. It's just a quick mind shift and decision, which is like, it's such a mental game. Again, having gone through it, I got kicked in the face a lot by my coach, and I was like, you could shut up. But then you looked at it, it's data, it's numbers. That's where it is. There's no emotional question about where it's going. I spent $300 at Tim Hortons. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did.
You did. And numbers don't lie.
Fight me now. Fight me. You can't.
Right. Yeah. Numbers just don't lie. And at the end of the day, if you're cheating, who are you cheating? You're cheating yourself.
Yeah, you can justify it. I can justify anything, but yes, you're right.
Right. You're cheating yourself. So we go back to what you said. It's about where you want to go. And not everybody wants to own real estate, and I get all that. But these strategies still work regardless of what your goal is. Maybe your goal is going on a cruise. Maybe your goal is buying a new car. It doesn't matter what your goal is. That's not the point. The point is how you get there.
And I think one of the biggest, and again, I'll speak personally, and I know I'm that kid in the class, like there's someone out there not putting their hand up and they're going to say the same thing. But it's like, it's the thought that bombarded so much with like, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to buy real estate, you have to invest, man, there's people out there that have great pensions who don't need to buy real estate. because they're
Right.
fine on what that pension is going to be.
Exactly.
Right. There's people who don't want to become like massively wealthy because they don't care about that. But
Right.
again, just insert goal here, follow X process. Congratulations. It doesn't
You've
matter what it is. Yeah. The
So
mental
let's-
part's wild.
Yeah. So let's shift it. What if you want to pay off your house faster? Maybe that's your goal.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Why not?
okay, that segues perfectly. Not because I'm a guy who says pay off your mortgage first, and we can argue about that. But it's so in our business, obviously seeing people with, I don't want to say mountains, but the relative mountain of debt, whatever that is for them, right?
Right.
So they're trying to buy a house, they're saving money, they're paying debt, saving money, paying debt. What do you do? What kind of, like, again, simple strategy, because I don't want to have to start you charging me for this, but what's a simple strategy for like tackling some of that debt load? Like I've heard, I've heard, pick one credit card, pay the minimums on the other, and then that'll snowball. I don't know if that's a thing, but.
Right. So you have to make the list of what you owe. The idea here is you want to create momentum, because let's be honest, it's really boring paying off debt.
It's balls. Sucks.
And if you aren't working with someone, you're doing it on your own, there's a greater chance you're going to fall off the wagon. Okay. So what I like to say is free up some money in your cash flow. When I said you got to get to zero, try to get to plus $300, save $300 extra a month, apply that to your credit card, and keep using that $300 on your lowest payment credit card. So let's say right now, your lowest amount, you owe, I don't know, $1,000 on credit card one, and your minimum payment is $50. That's your minimum payment. So you take that $50, you add the $300 that you've saved up. So now you're paying $350 towards this $1,000 credit card. So in 3 months, you're going to be done. Then you take that $350,
Right,
and you apply it to your next card. And that next card's balance is $75. So now you have $425 towards that card. And then you keep going. And the reason this is a good idea, the logic behind that, is because you want to find a place of momentum. Because if you just paying off debt and you're putting 100 here and 100 there and 100 here, you're getting nowhere for any of them.
You don't see it. You don't physically see any progress.
Well, there's no movement.
And
You're just paying minimum. So the idea is, when you're looking, let's say you have 10 things that you're paying, pay the minimum payment on every single thing except the one that you're accelerating with that $300.
Yeah.
And then you roll it in, and you'll see that within 2, 3, 5 years, however long, whatever that number is, you can calculate it without calculating compound interest. You can calculate it to know how many months it's going to take you to get out of debt.
Now, one thing too, and this seems very trivial, but I find it interesting, again, because the financial coaching, but then versus brokering. Like we use as brokers, agents, we use gross income to calculate, GDS, TDS, and all the boring stuff and numbers. But at the end of the day, net income is the game, right? And I think that's a big thing. Like when people say, maybe it's not, but I look at it and say, what's your gross income? What's your net? They're like, well, I don't know. Right. I make 40 grand a year. So I'm going to save
$10 million. Yeah.
What's that? Sorry.
You're cutting out a little bit.
Yeah, I know. I think you just came back there.
Okay. So it's, if people can come see me and say, how much money do you need for retirement? I can say $10 million or 5 million or 2 million, whatever it is. But in the end, it's about cash flow. What do you need a month?
Yeah.
Everything else is above and beyond. Because let's face it, living comfortably at retirement is about paying our bills and being able to travel or do whatever the things that makes you tick.
The goals. What do you want to spend your money on?
It's not about how much money do I have in investments. Mm-hmm. Of course, that's a vehicle to get there. There are many different vehicles. That's but one of them.
Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, anything about like basic percentage that you would save of your income? Rule of thumb.
I like this one, and you might laugh at this. I like to go back and look at our ancestors, our grandparents, our parents. How did they do it? Well, the standard rule of thumb then was one paycheck should cover your mortgage, one paycheck should cover your bills, and one paycheck should cover your food and other accessories, and then you have one paycheck to do something else.
So 2 people working, getting paid twice a month.
Well, well, let's say four weeks. I'm not looking at 1 or 2 people.
Okay, 4 weeks. Yeah.
Right?
Okay, sorry.
So 4 weeks in a month.
Yeah.
One is for your mortgage, one is for your bills and stuff, one is for food, and the other one is for saving and other things. The one thing that I often endorse as well is today's day and age, most people have 2 jobs. Can you find a way to live on only one income while having 2? That's how my husband and I went and did the things that we did. We decided that we were living on my husband's income only. All of my income was not to be counted in our mortgage and all those things. So if we couldn't live on one income, we couldn't afford it. That was the strategy we decided. But that is what propelled us into a very good financial life, because we have all this extra cash. And honestly, that's the answer, because we're making a lot more than we were spending, obviously. And then you decide that second income, in our case, that's our vacations, that's our extra cars, that's our hot tub, blah, 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 right? We just do other things. We have those goals. But obviously, if we were just living on one income and we didn't have the second income, well, we wouldn't have those privileges. We would still be living the same way. We would still have the same house. Like, I think today's day and age, society has shifted in a sense, whereas we always need the bigger house. We always need the 5 bedrooms instead of the 3 bedrooms and all of that. And people have grown into that. And there's nothing wrong with that if you can afford it. But I would encourage to think a little further down the line, because we do want to retire and we want to be comfortable. And if you're able to manage your finances at a young age, when you're older, you won't have to worry. There's a statement that Dave Ramsey says is, if you live today like no one else, you can live tomorrow like no one else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny too, because I have my that's the thing. When I look at when I watch Dave Ramsey's stuff, it just, there's a part of me that's like, this guy annoys me. But he annoys me, but I think he annoys me because I know he's not wrong. Right. I'm not going to say it's right for me. I just know he's not wrong. Right. And that's my own thing. But again, maybe this conversation goes a little bit different, but it's interesting to have because of the positions we're both in as brokers, agents, but then you as the financial coach, right? It's not what it used to be, right? Like, we know that at some point income levels were here and house prices were here, right? And now it's like this. So if we're getting advice from our parents, for example, that's just not what they've lived. So so again, I'm slow hanging fruit here. So I'm saying people are going to say, hey, mom and dad, we can't save like you save. Everything's X more expensive, rah, 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 rah. So how do we deal with that?
So again, that's that mindset, right? So let's be honest. Our parents know more than we know because they're older, but they might not know better than we know.
Oh, that was amazing. That was amazing. Love that.
All right.
It's true.
Because I'm going to tell you my own experience, and a lot of the people I know, is that my parents were not frugal. They were not good with money. They didn't manage well. They didn't do all those things. Well, what happened? How come I'm doing that well? Well, I believe it's a gift, but we can all believe what we want. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is that you got to change something. You can't think that everything is always going to be the same. Like, that show, there used to be are you the broken link or the weakest link?
Oh, the weakest link.
Like, I don't want to be the weakest link. I don't want to be the weakest link. I want to be the stronger link. You get to choose, and it's all about choice. Everything about finances and everything else is about the choice you're making today.
Yeah. And again, I think one of the best parts is as much emotional as real estate is, and buying the new house is exciting and all that stuff, I think if I say two things here, one, I have more problems with parents getting involved, and I'm not afraid to say that. It's true.
Agreed.
I have way more problems with parents
Yeah.
getting involved because their
Yeah.
first response to most, whether it's documents we ask for, whether
Right.
it's interest rates, whether it's the type of lender, they're just like, well, that's not how we did it. I'm like, sorry, Mr. Jones,
Doesn't work
that was
anymore.
1985. Not even.
Exactly.
That was 2006. Guess what's happened? A shit ton. It's so
Right.
different. You
Right.
can't compare, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And we're taking our cues. We're
Yeah.
taking our cues from those people.
Right.
No offense to those people, right? We're taking our cues from those people, right? But at the same point, numbers don't lie.
Right.
Data is data. This is
Right.
your income. This is the cost.
Exactly. And
That's
my
it.
biggest thing is education. We want to educate people differently because let's be honest, financial institutions have done their job really well, their marketing job, and they've sold so much mortgage information, but it's this only one solution, one opportunity, one strategy. There's no second strategy. Whenever I have people come to my offices, I'm sure when they go to yours, we give them a whole bunch of different strategies and they go, oh, nobody's ever told me that before. And their mind is blown. Well, the reason nobody's ever told them that before is two reasons. They took their advice from previous generation and they took their advice from media.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't take their advice from professionals.
Yeah. And that's it. It's just, it's making that decision to just, it's making a decision to say, I don't know what I don't know. Right. Like that, when my financial coaching stuff, that's what it was. I looked at enough things and said, nah, I don't know this good enough. I'm not stupid. But this is not my thing. Right.
Yeah.
And people might be weird about that because I do mortgages for a living, but
right.
I don't need to set your budget. I need to take your numbers and do what I do.
Right.
Your budget is your budget, and what you bring to me is what I can work with.
Exactly.
So that's up to you.
And the one thing is financial coaching isn't rocket science. I'm not going to teach anybody something they don't already know. Nothing. But here's what I do. I channel it differently. I bundle it differently. I move it around. And then first thing you know, they go, oh my gosh, this works. Yes, it does. At 100%.
The roller coaster of just like being knocked down from where you think you are to knock back to start, and then go, when you get back up there, you're like, that's all we had to do? Like, really?
That's it.
Son of a bitch.
But
it was right there. It was right there.
But you know what the key is? Accountability.
Oh, big time.
That's the key. That's the one secret sauce that most people don't have. By being a financial coach, you're accountable to me as the financial coach, and you have to tell me what you did. Do I tell you what to do and not to do? No. You tell me what you did and you do it to yourself.
But you know this. When you did it and you answer to you, there's that, you're like, yeah.
Yep. And that's the key. That's the secret sauce, is the accountability.
Now, if we go back to, if we get into some saving stuff, so budgeting, we figured out we're going to put this money away, whatnot. Any favorite places that you say put it into?
Well, I always say
vehicles.
You want to put it in a vehicle that it's actually going to make you money. And again, you got to be careful where you're getting your information. So there's a lot of vehicles out there, without naming them, that are going to give you 2% at best, 3% maybe, and they're going to promise way more. But at the end of the day, the numbers, the proof is in the pudding. Look at your numbers at the end of the year and you'll know how much money you're actually making. Then you want to find a new vehicle, or contact Kyle or us or whatever. Contact us to find out where it is that we might suggest that you put your money so that you make more money. And I can tell you, in 2021, the best place to invest money is in real estate. You can do that passively. You can do that actively. You can do that jointly. You can do it like Kyle and I can buy a property together and become our own little corporation if that's what we wanted. You can do that too. It's possible. There's all kinds of options out there. But you know what? If you don't want to be a landlord, there's options for you too. And it can still be in real estate and you're still going to make really good money.
Yeah, I think one of the things we're going to see more of, and it's already started in places like Toronto and Vancouver, I know it, is just like, two couples buying a house,
Yep.
right? Two couples buying a house and doing that, right?
Right.
The Instagram loves to call it house hacking, like it's a big rocket science thing. It's not. It's been around for a long time, but it's to do that. Start there. I got a set of clients. They were two young lads, two young guys that bought. I don't know. It was probably about 7-8 years ago now, and they're just two buddies bought a house, rented out a couple rooms, right? Naturally evolved, and one left with his girlfriend, but kept paying into the house because he could, and then the other guy, I don't even think had a mortgage payment because at that point they had enough renters in there, but then he left and they were just like, look at each other at renewal and be like, are we keeping this? Quick call with me. They're like, can we do anything? Do we want to do anything? I'm like, what are you doing? Yep. Like, nah, we're good. Kept it. And they just now they just own a house.
Yeah.
Right. But they're off doing their own things.
Right. It's called joint venturing.
Yeah.
So I have a bunch of properties that I've joint ventured on, and it really works because it gives me the opportunity to have more property, and it gives, let's say, you the opportunity to buy something you couldn't buy before on your own. So if both of us couldn't do it alone, we do it together and we buy a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex, whatever, right? Whatever we can afford. And then we have an account, we split it up at the end of the month or at the end of the year, whatever profit is in, then we each get 50% or whatever you decide. And that's all it is you and I are buying a property together. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's so many opportunities. And maybe I'm a better landlord than you, and you really want to just contribute passively. That's an option too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was looking at that. Like, there's people all the time that have better income and credit, and then people that have more cash, right?
Right.
Well, put the two together and we got something we can work with.
Right.
So that's you and your parents, that's you and your grandparents, that's your parents and your grandparents, that's you and your sister, brother, like my buddy Joe, like whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Just as long as it works.
The one thing that people don't consider is you also want to use the cash that's at your disposition in the equity of your property to buy these properties. So you have a house that's almost paid off and you have $500,000-$600,000 of equity in it. Why not tap into it, borrow that money, because you're really using the bank's money to buy this other property? Why not do it that way?
See, yeah. And I find that, refinancing, I don't have a point of contention with refinancing. It's just, it's a media spin. Like they'll say, the article was in the other day, they're like, oh, we've never had so much mortgage debt. Yeah, we've never had so much mortgage debt because houses have never been this expensive. The opportunity for people to tap in at the lowest rates ever have never been this, like this has never happened. Right. And I'm like, but did we look at the credit card debts? Like, how are we doing there?
Yeah.
Right. Like how, like our people were paying down their credit cards with CERB, which again is crazy, but also genius to a point. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, way to go. That's a great idea.
But let's not kid ourselves. We're going to pay for that.
Oh yeah, we're going to pay for that. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. My great grandkids are going to be paying for that. But,
exactly.
Yeah. That's different. That's a different podcast.
That's a different conversation.
Yeah. That's a bottle of wine and let's talk about life.
Oh, maybe not just one.
Yeah. Depends what's in the budget. You know, look at the budget. See what we decided on before we go out. Now, what about, I'm in an interesting situation because my stepson's 18 years old. He's a first year electrical apprentice, and to be like, literally just kind of came out of school, rolled out of bed, and then went to work, which is definitely seems 1960s and 70s to me, right? But it's just the way this is working right now with trades, and he's doing great. But he literally woke up one day and was just like, okay, like I'm making money here. What do I do? Like, what do I do with it? So if we roll back to, I mean, I think we both agree, it's never too late to start. The money, the numbers change. It's never too late. But he's like 18.
Right.
So what are some quick tips for parents to give their kids, or just if there happens to be an 18-year-old listening, what would you
There you
say?
go. So the first thing I would say is your job is your biggest asset, because without it, you don't have anything. So you want to make sure that you take very good care of your biggest asset, which is your job. Secondly, don't be foolish and going to buy a $70,000-$80,000 car because you have a really good job now. Because you're going to
Where's
have
my shirt? Cars kill deals. Cars kill deals.
Cars kill deals.
Cars kill deals.
For sure.
People. I know they're fun. They're beautiful.
Right.
But
they are
geez.
fun.
Yep.
Here's the thing. Put some money aside. Get an inexpensive vehicle to get started. Put some money aside in those accounts that you want to accumulate. And then when you have 50 grand, go buy a $50,000 car. Taxes in. Whatever's in that account, that's what you're allowed to spend, right? Don't buy an $80,000 car and you only have 50,000. You have to stay within the limits that you set and the money that you have. But the first thing I would say to you is be vigilant and not falling into the societal disease of buying everything and being like the Joneses. You don't have to be like the Joneses. Be you. And it doesn't, I've heard this before. Don't buy a car or something, a really expensive vehicle, to impress the neighbors or someone you don't know. Because at the end of the day, that's not giving you the right strategy to go on with your life. Again, it boils back down to where do you want to be and where do you want to go? So I would say buy yourself a small vehicle. Do what you have to do, go to and fro, and don't expect to have the house your parents have when they're in their 50s, when you're in your 20s. That's unrealistic. Buy a house like we all did, small, and work your way up from there. A house is not a life sentence. You can move from one property to the other and hopefully make money all the way through.
I think I say the same thing when we're just talking about just payment strategy of like monthly versus biweekly, or accelerated biweekly, I should say. And it's like, guys, it's not a 20. I say that exact thing. Like, it's not a 25-year sentence. You're out of this thing in 17 and a half, rate dependent slightly, 17 and a half. And if you throw a little bit extra, 1,000 here, 1,000 there, whatever we can work out, right? We'll see you done in 15. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, sweet 16, if you want to call it that. It doesn't take a lot, right?
No.
So it's, again, not because of the emotional side of, I don't want to overpay, or how do I predict to overpay, or it's not emotion. It's pure numbers. It's pure numbers.
You think your 18-year-old, let's say he does things well. He only buys a small vehicle. He doesn't have a payment on that vehicle. He pays cash for it, and then buys a house by the age of 35. He could be debt free, house, mortgage free, everything. So imagine what happens after that.
And
then
people think that's so far away.
Unrealistic. Yeah, it's unrealistic to think it's going to happen, but for this guy, it's going to happen probably by the time he's 40. Why? Because he did some good choices.
People are like, oh, it's so far away. It's so far away. Dude, I turned 40 this year. It is not that far away. Nope. He's 18. He was 5 when I met that guy. I'm like, where did you come from? Like, where did this happen? Right? Like, it's quick, man. It's quick.
It goes by fast.
Very.
And don't fall into don't get sucked into I need this, I need that. No. Needs and wants are two different things. If you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the needs are, we need shelter, we need food, and we need heat. Well, we need love, but those are the 3 things we need. So if you have a house to live in, and you have food, and you have clothes on your back, those are your needs. Everything else are wants. I understand that people say, well, I need a car to go to work. Yes, I get it. That's North American standards. I get that. But it doesn't mean that you need a Porsche.
Yeah, I have all my needs. I have expensive clothes. I have expensive house. And I like expense and I like Wagyu 3 to 4 times a week. It's fine. Julie, all right. It's in the budget. I put it there. Can't do anything else, but I put all that there. Fine. Thank
Exactly.
All right.
That's really where it's at.
Now this is awesome. I mean, I know we said it before. We could talk about this stuff forever, right? So at least I think we've given people just a few real quick tips to do and look at. And I hope, I mean, I know there's value here, so I hope people see that as added value too, and look at that. And okay, last question. Like, well, I want to ask, like, this stuff needs to be in schools. Like, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I've tried over the years. I've tried. And here's the challenge. The problem isn't the child. It's a parent problem, not a child problem. And if the parent won't learn the strategy, they can't teach their child.
Yeah.
That's the reality. So we can go to schools, but we need the parents involved.
Yeah. And that's
because the problem starts there.
It's a tough pill. It's a tough pill. You gotta look yourself.
Is.
It's true though. You gotta look yourself in the mirror and be like, I can't do this, or I don't do this, or I don't believe in this. It doesn't get taught. I mean, I know that. Yeah. I'm guilty of that for different things. So,
and
yeah.
I'm gonna say this. How many kids has a cell phone? How many of those kids, the parents are paying for the cell phone?
Well, thank you.
Probably
like, I am.
All of them.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to take a guess, right? I'm going to say this. You're 40. I'm 56. Nobody ever bought me a cell phone. If I wanted one, I got one on my own and paid my own damn cell phone, right?
Now we're going into the parent podcast. We can't do that either. Like,
right? But it is a parenting issue.
This right here is the financial coaching of just like, and you got to admit certain things. And that's what it's true. That's what it is. You got to admit certain things and then you decide how you want to react to it. That was my financial coaching journey. So I get that for sure. But this has been awesome. This has been so good. I mean, even just your two other businesses, we could have other podcasts on that itself. So there's probably going to be a repeat here at some point, but we're going to link all your info down so people can go and reach out. Like, you're still taking on clients for financial coaching?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Excellent. And again, coming back to your strategy stuff, all this stuff translates to business. Like, we could talk about business for self people, but I think that's one of the biggest things is talk about people not paying their taxes and HST and all that kind of stuff. It's no different. It's the same thing.
No. It is the same thing. It's about planning ahead. You know that you're going to have to pay taxes. So put a portion aside to be able to set aside HST and CRA. That way you're not behind the 8 ball every year.
Yeah.
If you are planning to be self-employed, be truly self-employed and manage your finances in your business just like you would if it was your groceries.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you if you fly by the seat of your pants at home, how on earth do you think you can manage your finances in your business? You're going to balance it the same way as you do at home, by flying by the seat of your pants, and that gets you in serious trouble.
Seen it for sure. All right.
Planning is the answer.
This has been great. Like I said, we're going to link all that stuff so people can get a hold of you and reach out and do what they have to do. And yeah, I hope everybody got something out of this. I know there was nuggets here that you can take away, and wish everybody the best. Julie, thanks again for all the time. I really appreciate it. And yeah, guys, thanks very much. And we'll see you on the next one.